Wait, let's try that. Try
I'm
again.
just going to try it without the headset.
Oh, there you go.
Is that better?
There you go.
Okay, good.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
You and I are both rocking the wood paneling.
Oh, man, don't you love it? And the Bitchin' Boulevard, too.
I don't have one of those. I need one of those.
Right?
What do I have?
My wife keeps telling me, you should really take that down. And I was like, in these times, I feel like we need a good laugh, right? So I'm keeping it up.
I was just responding to you on Marco Polo. I did the same thing last night. I was online getting my registration done with the SBA.
Yeah.
And like anytime it came to a database field that it could look for my address or anything, it was like crashed.
Yeah.
Refresh. We're back an hour later. So kicked me out once and it brought me back to the login screen and it said, these are our highest volumes of time. So I was like, oh, I know exactly when I'm going to log in, but I'm not going to tell you when I'm getting on.
So I actually, someone from Chatham gave me the suggestion and they said, wait until like no one else is submitting. So I'm literally going to wake up at like 3 a.m. and then start to submit.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
Friday night at midnight or 1 a.m. was when I was going to take a nap and then wake up and do that.
Yep.
Because it isn't a short process.
And this is for the SBA loan?
Yeah. So I was just on a big seminar. So where is that? I will shoot you the link. It's through the SBA, but it's like the disaster relief. And there is, well, everyone's pretty much applying to it, but there's like tons and tons of seminars about going through and, but there's like specific requirements. I'm sure Anne will send something out. But like you have to click on the kind of relief that this is through the SBA loan just for people to know that it's because of the COVID stuff. So
okay,
that's what I was watching the seminar on. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just muted my video because I did not dress for this occasion. We have an email that we can email out to everyone for the SBA requirements if you guys are interested.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that, and
Forward that information along.
I'm sure you guys are crazy overloaded. So anything that you guys can send out, I'm sure it'd be great. Anne did say she was going to send out like all the required, because basically for the SBA loan, there's a lot of things that you need.
Yes.
She said that she's going to send the PDF version so that at least you can kind of go through it and compile everything. So it makes the mission a little easier.
Yeah, I was actually on that conference call that talked about all the requirements and how to go through the system. And actually, I'm multitasking. The University of Pittsburgh is also doing a webinar that's on my other computer. Sorry if you guys were hearing that earlier. But they said we could share that PowerPoint as well. So we've been getting a ton of information.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, today is like webinars on webinars on webinars.
Yes.
Everly, if you want to talk, you're muted. So.
Yeah, that's because I have like 100 children behind me. So
I was just going to say, I'm not sure if you're trying to talk to us or
necessary.
you're talking to your children. So
yeah.
yeah.
I don't want people to judge me on how I talk to my children. So
No judgment.
shh, tell me.
I have a teenager, so you don't want to hear the way I talk to her. Or wait, you don't want to hear the way she talks to me.
And my teenagers in the basement.
Yes, where they belong.
Exactly.
Where they're happiest, underground. Hey, Misha, I did so just so you know, Zoom, I don't know where you decided to do it, but I was making, they were saying to me in a couple of posts that it's better to record it in the cloud versus on your computer. Technologically, I don't know that it makes sense, but they were saying it's the midway point. So they say bandwidth and compression is better. I don't know.
Yeah, I already set it actually to download to my computer show, but I will do also a backup. So good call.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be true, and I don't know that I've seen any quality differences when I recorded them, but that's what they said to me.
Mm-hmm. Always better to be safe. Children.
Hi, Jess.
Leave it. Hey.
Hi.
Leave it. Lay down. Hi, Jess.
Hello.
Where am I? This is where I want to record.
Hi, Nisha.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, very good. So nice to see you. It's been such a long time.
I know. I haven't been to many breakfasts lately.
Me neither. How are you, Beth?
I unmuted.
Please don't judge the purple. I am in my daughter's room because my office was taken by my husband.
So I have the identical situation, and my daughter's room is purple too, but it's coming up as blue somehow.
That's so awesome.
My kids have better desks than I do.
I know, right? And I don't know if you can notice the emoji sheets.
Those are adorable.
There's my daughter.
Hi.
Okay, now act inconspicuous for the rest of the
All right, everyone. So we'll get started in a few minutes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So we'll get started in a few minutes. I know I sent an email to everyone. This was kind of quick, so I don't know how many people will jump on. Worst case is we are going to record this. And if nothing else, we'll show it on LinkedIn and things like that, just kind of giving a little tips and tricks about what it is that you're doing, some things you're seeing inside of your industry. So I'm going to ask everyone 2 questions, which I sent. I will pause and see if anyone has questions that jumped on. And then if no one does, I'll ask a couple other questions and then we can bounce out. So that's my game plan as of right now.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool.
Sounds good. Even if others don't join, it will be helpful just to hear from this group what people are doing.
Yeah, I agree. Emoji.
Whoops. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, cool. We haven't started yet. Callie, do you want to go outside? My wife is like whispering as if it's like not the times we're living in. People can just start barging in. It's perfectly okay.
Low judgment zone.
Right?
That's the main rule.
Hi, Julia.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, you know, just one Zoom call to the next. Thank God. And I'm in the basement where my dog's afraid to come, so hopefully there won't be any barking.
Oh, I'm definitely going to have some barking eventually over here.
There's gonna be some.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
Dan Hudok's here.
Hey, Dan.
Good afternoon.
It has pretty much been webinar on webinar on webinar today. It's like everyone decided Friday was the best day to start communicating about everything.
I actually, I'm very impressed because Zoom continues to offer 100% of their capabilities. So that's very commendable. Other tools have decreased the resolution or capped the number of participants or etc. So this is making me consider my current tools. I have been incredibly impressed this whole week with them.
Yeah, and I think that it also shows a lot too of like the company's values. A lot of these are like, some of them are stepping up, some of them are kind of remaining quiet. So like, I really like that Zoom extended out their free package. So it used to only be 40 minutes, and now it's, I don't actually know, I forget. So just the simple fact of extending that out to really help people, I think is great, because they could have just like, nope, those are our packages.
I agree.
Yeah.
An interesting article this morning of just estimating how much Slack and Zoom these companies are being utilized now, how it seems how their systems are getting taxed and burdened, but they're going to stand to lose an average of 10 million users over months because of projections to the small business impact, the teams that use them. So they may not now, but it may feel it in the future, right? So, but to your point about Zoom and their mission, I listened to a podcast once of the CEO of that company and founder, and he's about how he started a company was about supporting the worker in a whole, how they had seen how apps had transformed, and the phone really revolutionized how we went to work and how we went and they needed the support structure, a communication structure to be able to support a worker's whole, and now we're seeing that. And I guess if you want to say, it's played out in the way they're treating their customers and employees now.
Agreed.
Versus a Microsoft Teams.
All right, so we're going to get started just because I think we potentially have a lot to talk about, and there's a million things going to be going on, like phone calls. So the main reason that I wanted to really start this is I'm pretty smart. I'm not the smartest cookie in the box, but together we're pretty smart. And I think that in these times, it's best to really kind of join together as a community, and someone who may be in a completely different industry may be having a really good idea about what they can do to really continue helping their small business grow, that may help someone else who's not in that same industry. And for me, everyone that's in here, everyone that has stepped up, I know personally has helped me a lot. And I know helps others a lot as well. And I know that I've helped. So community right now just seems to be such a big thing. And I'm super humbled that everyone is here, that is listening, that wants to join in and have this conversation. I'm going to go through. There are 6 business owners who I specifically reached out to really start this conversation. I'm going to ask them a couple of questions. I'm going to introduce them. And then I am going to ask them a couple of specific questions. And then to everyone else who is on, I'm going to kind of open it up and see if you guys have any questions. Anything. And honestly, at that point in time, I mean, I'd rather this just be a full community conversation. Don't everybody unmute at once and just automatically start talking. But, you know, I'm sure that there's some kind of collaboration that we can have between a lot of people. So I'm going to start from the top. So first and foremost, I will briefly introduce each one of these people, and then if you kind of want to do just a real quick brief introduction yourself, you definitely can. So first of all, Naisha Arsley is the CEO of Precisa, and I brought her on for basically strategy and process. She works with a lot of larger companies about making sure that things are working efficiently. Secondly, I have Jess Eberly from HRT Solutions. She's going to be talking about some human resources. Then I have Nathan Wading from Skinny Tie Media. They do a lot with video and company culture. So this was kind of he was a twofer on this one. Beverly Block from Block and Associates. She is our legal help. Johnne Solomon is from Booksmart, and she is going to talk a little bit about some accounting, more specifically in these times, automated accounting, and honestly just a little bit of finance.
Bitchin' Boulevard.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay. And then last but not least, we have Diane Danforth. And I'm really excited about having her on actually because she is an e-commerce online business. And I'm sure that if there's anyone else here, I know she'll probably speak to this, but like Amazon has stopped a lot of their shipments of non-essential products. So really, how is she handling the digital world as now everyone's kind of moving to it? Does anyone want to elaborate a little bit more of the 6 people that I introduced of what it is that they're doing and what it is that they are, their companies?
You did the perfect job, so I'm good from my side.
Cool.
Here, yeah, just jump into it.
Perfect. Okay, so answer is the spirit moves you. So how are you staying connected and engaged with your team?
Okay, it's Jessica. I can go first on this one. So we typically work, my team typically does work from home. I would say out of the 12 of us, there are 8 that consistently work from home, and then there's 4 of us that kind of go in or out of the office. And so one of the biggest pieces that has been most important this week is having touch base calls with the team. So people are just out there floating right now. If they're not hearing from their managers, they're not hearing from their bosses. I've been doing both team calls and individual calls. And one of the things that was probably most moving to me is one of my, top performers was like, she was like, I'm really glad you called. I'm really worried about my job. And she shouldn't be worried about her job. And so I was so relieved that I had a personal conversation with her. And I said, well, what made you nervous about your job? She's like, all I had to do was turn on the news for 2 minutes. And all of a sudden I got a ton of anxiety. So I would say for those of you that have teams out there, make sure that you're touching base with them. Make sure that you're being as transparent as you possibly can be. But having those touch base calls, letting them know how things are going is super, super important right now because they need that extra focus. And they also aren't hearing, if you're typically an organization that's in the office, they're not hearing anything. They may just be sitting in their office, putting their head down, working, maybe hoping they're not hearing anything because they think it's going to be bad news. But I think the reassurance piece is really, really more important than ever. And I've been having more calls with my team this week than I typically do just to make sure that people know where things are.
Jess, I think that was absolutely perfect. I think the same as us, we're hearing way too much from the news. Sometimes it makes you wonder if there's anything else going on. So I think there's no need to continue to hammer those messages, but that connection with your team, it is incredibly important. And specifically, the only thing that I would add is 2 things. In my particular case, we are also used to being virtual. We just meet at client sites for the weekly touch points or working sessions that we have to do with our clients, but the rest of the work is mostly virtual. So there's not that much change, but two things that have been very important to me, additionally than what Jess just discussed, is number one is setting expectations. Hey, we talked with these clients, you were present, they are expecting 1, 2, 3 still, maybe 4 and 5 can be more flexible, but setting those expectations is important so that they know that the work continues. And the other thing is encouraging boundaries with them. There are times, this is different if you're used to working from home, but there are times that people are at home, have less distractions, so they don't realize that they are working until 8, 9 p.m. and started early in the morning. And we have to have a balance because this is a very stressful situation. So we also have to balance and account for some mental health. So, encouraging boundaries, you know what, you typically work at your own pace in whatever amount, and these are the expectations that I have. Nothing changes. If you need to shut down your computer at whatever time like you typically do, this is not to work extra, this is to continue the work. We have keep up a little bit lighthearted, exchanging texts about dogs that I have never seen before, or cats that I have never seen before, or kids fighting or whatever. So we try to balance out that communication, like Jess said, to check in with them and see how are they holding up in the home front too. Um, but but it's important for people not to feel the extra pressure that the media is already bringing.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying too. I think that there's a lot of, with our work and whenever we help companies with their engagement with their employees and their culture, there's something that we always discover, and that's something called the shadow self. And that's the pressure put on yourself, whether it's from actions of your leader that you see or other people within the organization, or just those type A's that put a lot of pressure on themselves. You don't always detach those feelings from the person you are and say, oh, this is in my culture, or this is that person, this is why this happens. It's hard to externalize those things. So you roll them all into, hey, this is how I feel about work, and it sucks right now, right? And then it's this pressure you put upon yourself. And when you don't feel like you're doing enough, and you really love your company, you'll work hard and not realize that it is 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and you're still grinding away at the keyboard or checking contacts and finding out if you can help in some way. So it's good for, and this comes down to leadership. It's good for the leaders to, what was that book called, The 5-Minute Manager? And, you walk in and you spend 5 minutes with every employee. So whatever naturally, I'm talking to some companies that we work for now and trying to figure out how can we basically scale up a remote workforce on a drop of a dime, where most people are kind of ready to do it because we've had to work 1 or 2 days at home with kids or with a sick parent or something like that, but not extended periods of time, and not having to navigate and deal with those emotions over a long period of time. And also, that being said, there's not an anchor, right? Right now, that's the one thing that's really different now, is there's not an office anchor, right? There's not that place where you can go, where you can avoid anymore. That little thing that we revolve around doesn't really exist right now. And that's sort of that groundlessness that can be there. And that's on leaders to create. So checking in more often, and just, over the text. And it's funny, I've been observing our team whenever we do our Zoom calls every day. Those things that would have typically been a huge annoyance, like the kids, the dog jumping on, everyone's sort of more like, oh, okay, like we'll go an extra 15 minutes so you can go take care of your whatever, or we even did it here at the beginning of this call. And it's interesting to see how are we tending to more the whole self of each person now, because we can see different parts of each reality, and it's not a thing that gets in the way, but a thing to care for in each other. So that's been my observation of our team's behavior.
For AmeriCat Company, I view our manufacturers and retailers as an extension of the team. So for the manufacturers, I've been checking in with them to see, are they working remotely? Are they working from the office or factory? Is product currently still in production? Have lead times changed? So just trying to make sure that, I never want to be in a situation where I'm out of inventory, so that I'm just staying on top of that and knowing that, also giving them the update from my end on what's going on, and just keeping that communication open. And for the retailers, so a lot of the pet retailers are either totally closed or doing curbside pickup or delivery. So I'm sure they're under a lot of stress with their leases. So I'm not trying to be, too communicative with them, because I know they have other problems, but just like one general message that AmeriCat Company is working from home. All of our products are still in stock, and that we'll ship fast, and just so that they know that whenever they're ready to open or are doing the delivery or curbside pickup, that we're there for them.
Beverly, do you have anything to add? Or Janae?
I have a pretty small team, one of whom I required to be on this call, Taryn, as a filler, just in case. I gave her some questions to ask us to. No, but I agree with everything that everybody said. I think the frequent check-ins, I think in our business, we're always kind of feast or famine. We either have way too much to do or not enough to do. And, we're constantly worried both ways. So, I think we have to deal with the emotional, the psychic side of our teams as well. And I think Nathan talked about this, checking in with folks and making sure that, mentally everybody's doing okay with all of the uncertainty. You talked about the office as an anchor. I think the fact that we don't know how long this is going to last is especially anxiety provoking. So, from a human side of this, I just don't think we can ignore all of that. I think it's just as important as the technical, how are we doing things?
Yeah, and I know from my side too, I read an article today, and it's just kind of, I can't do anything about the uncertainty, but what I can do is maybe give my team a little smile here and there. So we're primarily on Slack. And if anyone on my team is here, they're going to see this, they're going to hear this coming before they actually see it. But I was planning on starting to send a morning GIF to everyone just to get the day kind of going. Again, it's just, you turn on the news, you look at social media, anything, it's a lot. So, there's little things that I'm sure that I can do to really kind of help that culture continue to grow. So, all right. So I wanted to get this one in and out because I know that it's the top of everyone's brain. So again, just chime in whenever you want to, but how are you maintaining sales and or income, or even how are you maybe potentially navigating the increase of sales as we move forward in these uncertain times?
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Dave.
It's hard this week. Misha, you were one of the first people I talked to this week when this all happened, when it was like, go home and everyone's busy doing something else other than what I wanted to focus on, which was business this week. And you said this week's pretty much just going to be a wash, right? Let's take a breath, play the long, look out in the future, and just it's going to be a resettling. It's going to be everything's settling in. So, your words. I was thinking all yesterday and the day before. I forget what day we checked in there, Tuesday. But I was like, oh, so what can I do right now? And I was like, okay, if I have to imagine a world and with my team and what my abilities are, how can we help? How can we take what we do really well drill it down, get it at its core, and then we help our clients with what they need to do. How can I not bother them on the phone right now, not do the typical business stuff that I have been doing, but how can I get to the core of what we do and apply it to this new world we may be living in for the next 3 or 4 months, and really focus with the team. I got with the team the other day and I said, I have this new idea for a concept video, connection video I want to create. Let's do a sprint here with this project. And we coded that project for bringing home, and we all jumped in and we started working a little bit on creating this new deliverable for a client, and we're going to put it to somebody. So, you know, being mindful of our clients, they're dealing with their own thing now, and not worrying about necessarily, but thinking, how can we add value to them when after they catch their breath and they're going to have to do something? How can we help them? But don't get me wrong, the sales guy, I am afraid, and I'm trying to play the long game, like you said, and just think about what's coming, how I can help without letting the anxiety, and also sit at the SBA online and try to get some
I love what you said, Nathan. In my particular case, I'm not gonna lie, it is very scary. It is very scary because Beth touched on this. We are always, without any situation happening, we're always in that influx of a lot of work or not enough. So definitely it is very, very scary. However, I am very process driven. I'm very strategy driven. And right now, the most important thing is for me has been to keep the clients that I have happy, and also insert an extra value proposition for them. For example, hey, we're doing this project to deliver 1, 2, 3, 5. It is our intention to still deliver 1, 2, 3, 5. However, I know that you're dealing with several challenges, and this is all the things that I would like you to consider. I'm not charging you for it or anything. This is just an ability to bring additional value from our relationship. And that's comforting to them, that you're not there only to collect the check and collect the payment for your work. And it builds the relationship, right? In terms of the pipeline, definitely I'm worried because it was through events and workshops and summits and you name it that I will get most of my leads, and all of that is gone, at least for a little bit of time now. So getting creative and getting innovative in terms of how to generate the exact same concept in a different venue has been the focus of this week and probably the next couple of weeks. How can I create the same environment and push myself out of my norm to create new ways of identifying alternative ways to bring leads to the market. But right now, my focus have been to keep the clients that I have as happy as can be.
I'm just going to add in, you know, one of the things that we've been working on from a sales perspective is, for some of us that are a little slower, this is a good time to start to build out some of the prospecting piece that you don't have time for, right? The research on what are clients that we should be reaching out to, who is it that we should be reaching out to. I'm not saying reach out to them this week. I'm just saying get that information pulled together. So for our company, we are a certified lead bank organization, and I was supposed to be the week that we're in, I was actually supposed to be in Nashville at Summit and Salute, and that was canceled. And so I've pivoted to, okay, well, what are we going to do when we get the opportunity, hopefully in June, for the national conference, and how am I going to utilize that time? I have one of my team members who, this is probably his least favorite job, but he's available and he's doing it. He's actually researching WeBank and women-owned businesses for us to make a care package that we're going to send to our top 20 companies that we want to connect with while we're there. So I'm having him do that. I think it's really, really important, especially at this point in time, to make sure that if you do have a team, they're cross-trained. So we have also, you know, we also have people that are helping with some of the prospecting pieces of what is it that we're going to do, you know, in a month from now? What is it that we're going to do in 2 months from now? And then also taking a look, because I know the question was about revenue and sales, but taking a look at what are the things in regards to revenue and sales that you're always like, why just don't I have time to do that because I'm too busy? Now's the time to do it, so that we're planning for, you know, when things clear up. And then the other piece too is pivoting. You know, I had a conversation about some of our service offerings, and for us, because we work in human resources and talent, you know, one of the focuses that we're probably going to need to pivot towards is, what about all these people that are out of work, that are going to need help? So one is, you know, what is it that we can kind of offer people right now, maybe as a helping hand, and then what are some things that we may be able to, you know, monetize from a sales perspective in the future? And obviously that's not going to replace, you know, some of the revenue that we currently have, because we do work with a lot of larger companies, but how do we kind of do a win-win where we're helping other people and we're also figuring out how to pivot our business?
So from an e-commerce perspective, you know, AmeriCat company primarily sells cat products online, and then I have a consulting business called Go Forth Advising, where I help companies launch and grow on Amazon. So across, you know, the 6 or 7 businesses I'm working on now, even though we are online and primarily e-commerce, across the board, you know, sales are down because people are buying necessities, not these discretionary products. So I'm hoping that we'll get better, that people will do more online shopping, but even though we are online, I'm just seeing sales across the board down. So I put together a couple ideas that I'm going to do that might spark some ideas for some other people. So first is just really reminding everyone that we do offer free and fast shipping. Not every company does that. So if you're able to do that, I think that makes buying online easier for those at home. Also, I'm looking, before all this started, I was working on a couple new products, and I'm still developing those, and I'm going to launch them, which is kind of scary too, because I'm going to have to invest money into the initial inventory. But I'm going to set up my website so that people can pre-order them. So that's a way to move the revenue forward. And I'm also going to keep the customers very involved in the development process so that they can get excited about it. So we, before all this started, did a survey just gauging consumer interest in the products and getting a little bit of information about their cats. But I'm going to follow up with like another survey about getting input on the designs. So really bringing them along for the journey so they feel like they've helped build this together to help then make the pre-launch sales strong, hopefully. Another idea is that I have some inventory that I would consider open box. You know, on Amazon, you get a lot more returns than usual. And so people have opened the product. They may have used it for a day or two, but I'm thinking about selling that as a discount for friends and family, potentially for the whole website, but would help me clear out some inventory and would make the product available at a lower price for people who, you know, might be struggling, and it's, you know, it's still a product that's in excellent condition, so there wouldn't be a disadvantage from a product perspective. And then lastly, this is still kind of in the works, but thinking about how I can support the retailers. So if they are doing shipping, potentially doing like a short-term drop ship program where they can place the order with me, I'll send it to their customers, and I'll charge them a bit of a fee for that, for the handling, but would ultimately let them meet the need of getting products to their clients and help me sell more. So those are some ideas I'm working on. The first couple of days were really just kind of shock at the sales decline, but now I'm trying to think about what are some creative things that we can do that will help everyone.
I really like that, Diane. And it's a lot of what everyone else has kind of been saying is, and I'm taking the same tactic where it's, it's calm, right? Like everyone's panicked. And we're a web design company, and basically any one of my clients that I'm going and looking to right now, if you look at any of their traffic, like there's a huge, like all of them just straight down almost. And I like that from a business side, how do you continue to add value during all of this? Like over communicate about the free shipping, offer some additional resources, like continuing to add that value is spot on. And I think that's where a lot of this, like kind of coming together and really seeing like, we're a small business, we understand, but starting with the value would be very, very beneficial. So that's awesome. All right, so we're about halfway through right now. So what I actually think I'm gonna do, I have other questions, but I wanna open this up to anyone else who is joining, who either A, has a question they kind of wanna throw out to other small business owners of what it is that you're doing, what it is that maybe you're having some issues with, or honestly, maybe you found something that's like a gold gem that you would like to share with everyone here. So I'm going to open up to anyone. So just FYI, if you're new to Zoom, I have all of the power. I am the big brother. So I've muted a lot of you. If you want to come in and say anything, on the bottom right-hand corner, there's an unmute. So unmute yourself and ask a question. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to ask or add to?
Hey, Misha, I'd I have one to add in just to kind of spark some conversation, if that's cool.
Cool.
And Nathan, this may be pertinent to you as well. So with Foothold Studios, we're a photo and video production company. Nathan, we've crossed paths many years ago in the past through Smith Brothers, but we're in an interesting point where we physically cannot go do what we do. So it's provided a pretty interesting challenge, and just had a call with my team a little while ago trying to discuss we can't go shoot. We just aren't able to, unless it's a one-person thing in their home or somebody is comfortable going into the studio. There's just not a lot we can do on that front. So outside of that, what can we do, and how can we, to that really smart point earlier, how can we work with the clients we do have to see if there's anything that we can do with either previously captured assets or, whether it's light animations or infographics or any of that sort of stuff. But, it's been kind of a unique challenge. And so I'm just kind of, I think particularly for Nathan, but for anybody else who has an opinion, how you're navigating if you legitimately can't do what you do right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma when it comes to acquiring new assets in this specific vertical of business, right?
Totally.
No one wants to, unless you're going to roll in with a director and a crew and a hazmat suit, right? They don't want to go for their own safety purposes. They don't want to go into something because they don't know what they're walking into as well. So then you're left with, okay, how are we Zoom calls? How are companies looking to communicate? So I think this is where businesses have to come back to who they are and what they want, what difference they want to see in the world. And I don't, we're very based in that reality to say, hey, what do we want to be in the world and what do we want to create? And what we want to create is we want to help companies connect with their employees. So that doesn't mean we need a camera and we need $20,000 worth of gear. That means we need a good story, and we need to help an organization do what they do, and do what they do better. And they're in the same. I mean, they're in the same boat we all are. They're trying to figure out how they're going to navigate and how long it's going to take them. And I don't think anyone really wants to invest in anything right now because they just don't know what's going to happen. So it's kind of a hold your breath moment. Because no one, whenever you're creating stories and things like that, no one wants to come off tacky. I just got an email from Apple saying, hey, buy business accounts, buy a new AirBook. They're out today. And I'm like, yeah, not a good time to send email, right? No one wants to look at what they can't buy for $4,000. So it's again, I mean, you're onto it. It's explainer videos, it's animated videos, it's connecting over Zoom calls and adding our ability, which is more than just making, it's adding value in a strategic way as well. And, you know, digital asset management, you know, going back to the archives and offering, you know, the clients you do have saying, hey, we have assets, we can do this at a discount, just to give you something. But I think it has to be a taste to keep, you know, how we're taking over the world. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, yeah, tough spot for us, and I can only imagine for you as well.
Yeah, I appreciate the insight, man. That's certainly helpful.
You're not alone.
No, you know, and it's, I think the comment of, you know, obviously this is not the week to reach out. It has been a little bit of that panic week of, oh crap, how do you continue to add value, and how do you continue to be that salesperson while not being able to sell things. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but you know, it's you know, good to know we're all in we're all in the same boat. You know,
I think it's an opportunity too to dig in deep, right? To look at yourself and really. Someone said two things that are really great. It's to really look at what you do, and then talked about pipeline. I was like, what pipeline? I think that was you. Was that you said, yeah, the pipeline? And I'm like, yeah, there is no pipeline. There is no nurturing anything right now, right? So.
Well, I think, Dave, too, one of the big things I know that I've had to really change my positioning on here is how much do I think that my customers know? And then how much could I continue to add some value where, you know, I understand you need to go there to shoot, to make some of these videos, but are there little things that you can do to maybe start helping them, you know, create the story? Or are there little things that you can do to educate them on the right camera to buy when they're home, right? Like the little things here and there, what can you do to, again, add value? But you may think, oh, people know all this stuff. Like, no, there's a guy on LinkedIn who owns a video production company. He's been throwing things out there like little tips, and I'm eating this up. And I do a lot of videos. I don't do them as well as you guys do, but like I do a lot of videos, and I'm really engaging with him, and I like him, and he's staying top of brain with me on a lot of this. So, you know, how much are you assuming that your target audience actually knows, and how much could you start educating them, right? It's what Jess was talking about, where it's like doing that research, doing that planning now, right? Like, yeah, you can't go there, but how much can you start to set up in place, which is what I'm doing too. Like, how much can I set up in place so that when this does start to, the panic goes away or whatever it may actually be, like just start going up.
Totally.
Well, I think it's Jess again, and this is just a comment / idea, but I think we are going to see a lot of people move, particularly over the next 6 months, to having less contact with a group of people. And so that may open up, you know, even when we think about like orientation, where it could be a group of a lot of people, or I know people are moving a lot to video interviewing, but when I think about that, I think about an opportunity for video with potential orientation videos of not wanting to have certain execs have exposure. And you would want those to be well done. I think about these super important of culture videos at this point, because how are you going to relay the message if you can't have people come into the actual office? Or if you're narrowing it down and saying, you know, typically people would interview and get down to 3 and say, okay, I'm going to have these 3 finalists come in. Well, now maybe they're only having the final 1 come in, but to the other 2, how are you relaying the culture? And so I think there may be some opportunities here in the future. I'm just thinking from my particular industry, but I know there have to be other industries that are going to have the similar situation where there may be an opportunity for video to pop in, and it needs to be well done. You know, because as I mentioned, like if it's the CEO who used to come into orientation and talk to people, but now they don't want he or she in front of, you know, 15 people for orientation, shaking hands, etc. I'm just trying to think through some of those pieces and some spots where video may be able to fill in for actual interaction.
Sure. Yeah, and it's interesting. We had a conversation with a elderly care center earlier this week who was looking to create a video basically to reassure the families of the folks who were there, and it was kind of like, well, we certainly can't send anybody there. That's about the worst thing we could do right now. But it turned into this conversation of, okay, can we FaceTime and help find the best lighting in your facility so that somebody can record this on an iPhone and then send us the footage so we can do the post-production on it? Or what are some ways that we're not really going to make any money off this thing, but it's certainly a feel-good thing for us to do, just to make sure that these families are reassured and build that relationship with that client. And it was like, all right, this is not going to be the way we would want it to be, but it's going to be a productive thing and it's going to be good for all parties involved. What's the creative solution that can help execute it still?
Exercise for you to go through it, to think different about how they create, right?
Absolutely.
And adding a little bit to that, I think this is the perfect opportunity to identify partnerships. And just you alluded to this, how can you still deliver your services in terms of and potentially facilitate interviews while merging with video capabilities. Yesterday, I was doing my final closing report for an engagement, and my heart was breaking because I'm like, oh, I'm doing a closing report. How many people are thinking about closing their business because of this? Because it is a very difficult situation. But I think as we are evaluating how do we do what we do in a different way, we also need to evaluate potential partnerships where we can leverage a little bit about each other. And it's not like those are going to be big revenue generating items, but definitely it's an opportunity for us to collaborate and help each other a little bit to keep moving along.
Cool. Well, thank you all for the input on that. I think that was some really helpful insights and some good thoughts and thought started. I have a ton of notes here to chew on.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and ask a question. So as a law firm, we are obviously at the mercy of the Pennsylvania court system, but then we have clients who are looking to us for guidance, maybe in a time where we don't have much information. So what are you guys doing maybe for third parties or as the middleman doing to make sure that you're keeping your clients or your base calm when you maybe don't even know what's going on yourself?
So I'll take that to start. So I have spent, as mentioned, we do talent acquisition as well as human resources. And so I've spent the beginning part of the week working with some of our clients in regards to layoffs. And so one of the biggest pieces for us is being kind of that middle person in some instances, and literally things were changing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every day this week. Things are changing minute by minute, really. And you would think it would be one thing, or you'd be waiting for something to be passed. Couple of things. So one thing is letting your clients know, hey, these things are changing very quickly, so that they know it's not you that's changing it. It's, hey, this is what's coming through. And then sharing the information. We've done a lot of sharing legislation, and then we've also said, here are the key points that you want to make sure that you're thinking through when you're looking at this. So making sure that it's kind of that common language, very, very similar for when we're working on communication for employees. Want to make sure that it's actual language that people understand. The other thing that's been really important is to say, don't panic. I think that's a huge portion of this piece is, what is it that you have to do now? And so we have some clients who have had no choice, but they have to shut down for 2 weeks. And that's just kind of what they have to do. And so it's, hey, let's take a look, do what we need to do right now. And then you can make a determination later of what additional steps you may have to take. But I would say the biggest piece is saying, let's take it day by day. I think it's really, really important to make sure that people are making good financial decisions for their business in regards to their people, but it's also really, really important to make sure that we're not overreacting and that we're making decisions that are right for the business, not just this week, but that are going to be right for the business based on the information we have now at the end of the month. So I think by giving as much information as possible, I think that's been really, really helpful. I've been lucky because as I've been talking to some of our smaller businesses, I've been able to leverage my own experience as a small business owner, and that builds credibility. I've been talking to them about what we're doing with our business and having those conversations. But I think the biggest pieces are making sure that we're backing up the information with facts, making sure people know that things are going to continue to come through, you know, something that we may think is going to get passed through, you know, on Thursday may not pass through on Friday, and something that passes through on Friday may shift and they may decide to add something or do something differently. So just making sure that people know that communication can consistently change. And then that other piece of just do what's right for your business financially, but make sure that you're looking at the longer term, because what's happening this week and next week are completely not normal. And they're going to change the way that a lot of people are doing business, but you want to make sure that you're doing what's best for your employees as well and trying to protect them in this time.
I just wanted to add, I think, Taryn, that's a great question. And even though I planted Taryn, I didn't plant that question. I think that one other thing to add to what Jess said is I think it's okay to admit if you don't know the answer. And, you know, it's a weird thing for a lawyer to be saying that, but think about the future touch points that gives you with your customers or your clients, because things are evolving, you know, minute by minute. Taryn alluded to the fact that the courts closed. They closed sort of administratively one day, and then a few days later, we got more information about what the closure meant from a civil standpoint and what it means for criminal matters. And it continues to evolve. Think about, you know, Governor Wolf closed certain businesses and then closed more yesterday. So we can't really give our clients definitive answers. And I think it's really incumbent upon us professionals to know when we can give them an answer and when we can't, but to assure them that once we know, once there's less ambiguity, we will follow back up and let them know.
If I can add a little bit from the psychology behavioral viewpoint, I think allowing people to feel panicky for 5 or 10 minutes and normalizing that actually is really helpful, because it is scary. I mean, it's scary out there. And I think that actually helps our clients connect with us better by saying, yeah, I'm totally freaked out and I'm not going to make any decisions right now. So I think just particularly you have a really great opportunity to say, like, share your crazy with me and let me help you get through it.
And Julia, that's spot on. That was going to be one of the big things that I had talked about is, I mean, obviously we have a lot of clients kind of coming to us like, I need to learn, I need to know how to communicate with people digitally. I need to get notices out and things like that. And I have found that, you know, before I really start like hammering in with the education of the solutions of things, I do just need to give that space of panic, because I need that panic time too. Like my poor wife, for goodness sake, like constantly is like every 5 minutes we're up and down. Like I'm going to go cuddle my dog because the world's going to end till like, this is going to pass in 2 days. Right. So having that up and down, I know that my clients need that too. And just being able to before, cause I mean, you really hit the nail on the head with the, you know, going slow, educating as much as you can and being honest. But yeah, definitely giving that first, like, hey, how you doing? Like, let me take 5 minutes. How you doing? What's going on? And then they go off and it's like, I get my cup of coffee and I'm just kind of listening and it's good. So I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one, Julia.
Thank you. And then a funny note is a friend of mine who's working from home, she and her coworkers have been sharing pet pictures, but her boss doesn't have a pet. So he sent a picture of his Roomba. And I don't know why that has made me, I'm like, let's all send pictures of our favorite home appliance.
And Misha and Julia, the only thing that I would add is one of the exact things that I was going to say. Obviously, communications with the clients that you have today is very important, incredibly important. But just that personalized touch, Misha, you just summarized it perfectly. It is okay to send a blast email to an email list, and we're going to be working from home, and your service is not going to suffer, all of that standard stuff, but they're getting a lot of those. So just connecting with them at the personal level, hey, I'm here to help, is not necessarily regarding this particular project. I'm here to help. How are you doing? How can I help? Is there something that I can do? And taking that in strides, I think that connection is incredibly important.
I'll jump in here. Hi, everyone. So from the financial standpoint, we've been helping our clients just look at their budget and understand what they can cut, what's non-essential, how they can renegotiate their debt or negotiate contracts. And we've also been looking at their insurance plan and seeing what does insurance cover in such a time of emergency, and making sure it can cover some of the things that is a disaster before they plan on going into debt.
All right, thank you guys. Those are some great answers to that question. I think there's a lot of information here that we can use going forward.
Awesome. I actually wanted to spend, since Johnny actually just jumped in, any suggestions on, as a lot of these small businesses start to plan out? So what are you advising your clients from a financial planning standpoint, how far to look out?
I'm telling my clients to look at 12 months, so a year. Their budget should already reflect the year. So basically, looking at what can they do to control mainly their debt, because most clients, as you mentioned, their income is just going straight down, but the debt is not going down with the income. So the first thing is to look at that budget and call the people that they're in debt with, if they have any debt, the credit cards, loans, even investors, and say, how can we plan the next 12 months of managing my debt so it doesn't ruin my personal credit or my business credit? So I'm telling them to negotiate that debt for a year and having a solid plan to say, for the next year, either can I pay the minimum or not pay at all? Can I get a deferment? And whatever they can do to manage the debt, just start with that first.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else we probably have time for about one more, and then I have one that I want to ask at the end.
This is Alicia. So I was looking at some things that they put in with the extension of the FMLA and the coronavirus applications to that. But some of that's a little confusing to myself. So personally, my husband doesn't know if he's getting paid during these times that they're laid off. So how, if anybody has any insight onto how to, help with the programs that are put into place with this, because I know unemployment's an option and things like that, but something to that nature of, kind of how to look into getting the assistance that maybe small businesses can get versus, or even individuals.
Yeah. So go ahead. No, I can speak to that in terms of the FMLA. Of course, you can file for unemployment, but as an employer, the government says that they will refund. There's a tax credit now to pay for the taxes that are related to those wages, specifically for FMLA. So either his employer or any employers on the line can look into that tax credit. And of course, you have to make the payment, apply for the tax credit, and then apply it to the quarters that you paid the wages. But there is a refund now of the wages and refund of the tax credit. And just to add, for FMLA, the FMLA is typically only for if you are sick, meaning you, the employee, or someone that you care for is sick. And as of the last time I took a look at the legislation, it was the amount that was paid, that you are paid as an employee, is different based on if it's actually you or if it's actually, you know, your child or spouse or family member that you're caring for. So those are two things to take into account. And if somebody is just off of work, nobody within their household, their family is impacted by the actual illness, then they would go and file for unemployment. And then an additional thing is that they did actually, this is Pennsylvania specific, but they did actually drop the waiting period. So you can apply and you don't have to wait the typical waiting period in order to get money to people faster.
Thank you.
Misha, you're muted.
Thanks, Beb. Always looking out. I appreciate that. All right, so my last question is for everyone, really. How do you anticipate this will negatively or positively affect your business?
So for me, the negative effect will be the decrease in sales. The looking for the positives, it will give me time to develop these new products that I've been wanting to. So I'm using it as a work period. Also, I think it's a time to work on the foundation. So there's been some, you know, email marketing, website changes, things like that that I've wanted to do that I haven't had time for. So looking at writing some more blog posts, looking at my to-do list and getting a lot of those strong foundational and processes in place so that when we come out of this, we will be stronger as a business.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity, like you said, Diane, to use it as a time to, that list that you kept that you were going to do over the holiday break, that you needed some downtime and you didn't do it, to actually force yourself to do it, and turn the TV off and create that structure and go after those things that maybe you need more deeper focus on. Maybe you need 3 hours of uninterrupted time if you can get it. If you're, you know, if your kids, nice weather, you send them outside in the backyard or something. I think it's that time to sort of look in the mirror and hold yourself accountable to getting those things done. If you can stop worrying about the bills for
I will have to say I thought about that earlier, and this, I mean, not that this doesn't suck, but this would suck that much worse if this was -10-degree weathers and we were in the middle of December and we hadn't had any sun for 3 weeks. So at least the sun kind of comes out every once in a while. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me, my immediate answer is I'm not sure. And I'm still in that week or two of letting it all sink in. And as a law firm, we represent small businesses. So, you know, our clients are the ones really impacted by all of this. So that will have a trickle effect on us. I think that if we can trust the economists, and I pray that we can, our economy will have a quick rebound, which will mean that there will be a lot more need for probably all of our services, those of us who are on this call. So I think for the small businesses that can weather 2, 3, God forbid, 4-month slowdown, there will be incredible opportunities for us on the other side of this. And I hope that that's right. I'm optimistic. I think it is.
I am.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go ahead, Janet.
I'm sorry. I agree with that because I'm getting a lot of calls from people who totally ignored their accounting and completely ignored their budget and didn't have time to plan or put process and policy and procedure in place. And now they're calling me saying, oh, Janae, we need to put those processes in place, and we need to understand our budget and understand our revenue model, how we make money, and really understand our profit so that we know how to plan for that profit. So for us, it's been such a great opportunity to help people use their time at home to plan and really understand how their business makes money, how their employees are an asset and why they should keep them, and how to have a reserve in the bank by utilizing the profit that they do have. So it's a great opportunity because people are now realizing, the ones who haven't before, how important accounting really is in their process and their workflow.
I think for me, I'm in Beth camp. I don't know yet. Within my clients, we're still delivering. Some projects that I had on the pipeline have been put on hold. So I need to see how everything pans out and see if everything come back fast and furious, because people need to implement transformative initiative as of yesterday to even work better and more efficiently. Definitely I'm in for a marathon. So identifying the resources that I'm going to need should be my priority right now, but all I can do is prepare, and all I can do is prepare for a worst case scenario and for a best case scenario. So
I would say probably the only positive that I can say right now would be, I think that there's a continued push. So at HRT Solutions, when we can, we use local businesses and local small businesses. And so I think the push here for us would be to make sure that we're continuing to do that, but that we're trying even harder to keep our, whatever it is that we're purchasing within the community. So I think that's a good piece. And I've seen a lot of people rallying around some of the smaller businesses. So I think that's a piece that could be positive, would be, I've seen a lot of people who probably previously aren't thinking about small businesses, starting to think about small businesses. And I think it's important for people that are outside of just people that own a small business to be thinking that way. So, when I have to think of a positive, it's definitely not necessarily business specific. But I think that could be a positive for the small business community, is that people are paying attention to that. And then the other positive, which does include our business, is starting to think through, okay, how do we pivot when the climate's changed? So when things are different, whether it's somebody who's a retailer, I watched a video yesterday where somebody walked us through their shop, and it was like QVC on an iPhone. And so I think some of the creativity that we're seeing from small businesses has been really, really cool.
Very well said, Jess, honestly. And that was kind of my position on this, is actually to emulate what Johnny said. Like I was one of those companies that didn't budget well, didn't plan well. And this is just giving me an opportunity to really sit down and, what are some things that maybe are not necessary, and start doing some of that planning and start some of that budgeting, and, hope that it wasn't too late. But at the same time, at least starting now is kind of the big thing. But I'm actually also really excited. Yes, like stimulating the local economy, but how is this going to actually change how we work as Americans? And how much is this actually also going to maybe potentially increase our work-life balance? I had someone talk to me. She works at a law firm, and she kind of does this thing on the side, and it was a very odd story, but basically she's like, I used to drink diet soda every single day, and now I don't have to drink diet soda because I'm not stressed. And just in that simple little commute, she's still doing her same job. It was just the commute. It was having to get up. It was having to get fully dressed and things like that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't all shower, but things like that. Like, how is that going to actually change how we work if we were to maybe foster more working from home to increase a work-life balance? So I think the positivity I'm hoping will come from this is maybe corporations would start to actually have that be an option, that they would start to foster some work from home or working remotely or whatever that may actually be to grow a team. So I'm excited to see what will happen with that. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to say before we jump off?
I do want to say, Misha, I have to jump off, but thank you so much for organizing this. Just the fact that we can not only share, but also receive information of how everything is being handled is incredibly helpful. So if you want to do it every week, I'm in. No pressure.
So I want to ditto that, just to be able to think positively, which is what I've gotten out of this, and sort of future oriented has been wonderful. And I got a text, and this is sort of a bummer, but a friend of mine's son is a life flight medic, and he transported a family of 5 who all passed away, and the parents were in their 40s, and the kids were all 12 and under. So please take this seriously. It's not just older people. So sorry to be a bummer, but I got that while we were on the phone or on the call. But thanks, Misha.
Yeah, not a problem. That was actually going to be my final note was, thank you to everyone. I mean, I literally started texting people. Jess, you were my first one. I think it was like Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
I had one of those shower aha moments where I was like, oh, I now know. And then you guys just rallied around, which just, I mean, everyone in here, and I don't know if anyone else is from outside of Pittsburgh at all, but I mean, the Pittsburgh community is just so strong, especially from the business standpoint. And I'm very, very grateful for all of you and doing all this and taking the hour out of what I'm sure is very valuable right now. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Misha.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Stay
you.
well.
Thank you. Awesome. And remember, our reaction to the chaos is a choice.
Thank you
Yes.
for that final note.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Enjoy the weekend.
Bye. Thank
Yes.
you.